Well, welcome back and thanks for being with us here on Morning Live and coming to you live and direct from Cape Town, the Cape Town City Hall behind us. And this, of course, now is a parliamentary precinct. And this is where the State of the Nation Address 2022 will be taking place. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering that later this evening. Well, we're going to speak to some of the political parties represented in Parliament just to get a sense of what they expect and also whether expectations from previous years have been met. So joining me right now from the Inkatha Freedom Party is Mr. Mkhule Hlengawa. Thanks so much for your time. Great to have you with us. And let's start by talking about the venue for SONA 2022 and the reasons we are here.
Well, of course, the tragedy that befell the nation in January has landed us here, and one can only hope that the investigations of the law enforcement agencies will actually lead to a logical legal prosecution, because most of the time the legal fraternity has not covered itself in any glory when it comes to these kinds of cases. But it's important that we actually get to the bottom of this. And of course, very difficult conversations about Parliament moving forward will still need to take place. But for now, this suffices, and the work of the country has to keep going. We must not be held back by the tragedy, but we also do fundamentally believe that a greater deal of transparency insofar as Parliament's own internal investigative processes actually needs to take place, and we need to see consequence management there as well. The Department of Public Works, in our view, has not answered the difficult questions nor taken the responsibility in a manner that inspires confidence.
And I think overall there's very little confidence being inspired to ordinary South Africans when you learn about the lapses that happened in Parliament in securing the building, making sure that the lapse that happened that led to the fire perhaps could have been mitigated better. It does leave, the South African public wondering, so is Parliament derelict in its duty, in its oversight, in making sure that everybody who is there actually does what they need to do?
Well, the fire was an indication of the state of the nation, tragically. It's indicative of a laissez-faire attitude towards governance and towards responsibility. The lapses were, a culmination of a long time of neglect and a long time of people simply not doing what it is that they were supposed to do. One of the things is that generally I have to work late sometimes in Parliament, and I will leave at about 10 o'clock and I will walk right past a security post and there's nobody there. But during the day, and so it's as if problems take place between 8 and 4, and after that they go home with us. And that is precisely why we are here. But I think also Parliament's own internal committees, the audit committee amongst others, really need to step up and look at all these things in a manner that will actually assist us to arrive at consequence management. But ultimately, the fire was an indication of the state of the nation. The country is literally burning.
Before we move on to other issues, have you ever had a fire drill that you've been involved in your time at Parliament?
No, in my 10 years here, I've never had a fire
And nobody thought that was strange because anyone who works in any sort of building, any capacity, there's a thing called a fire drill, safety measures that are in place.
I want to tell you something that probably might shock you and shock them. When we are at work, we are as if we are a problem to the establishment. Members of Parliament generally find themselves treated as an irritation by the staff establishment and the law enforcement agencies. We probably have the hardest time more than anyone else, but we are at work. And so the institution is not in the hands of MPs. It's in the hands of officials, and they have to answer questions. And that is not to say that we must not take responsibility. The Chief Whips Forum, which on our behalf takes care of these issues, in itself must self-reflect as to whether the tough and difficult questions have been asked in order for Parliament to run smoothly. But literally, for members of Parliament, anyone that you'll speak to, you'll find that we are literally an add-on to the institution. And that is probably one of the reasons why things are as they are.
So let's get to SONA 2021 and the issues that were foregrounded by the President in that particular speech. In terms of just assessing what we've achieved, what we've managed to move forward on there, let's start with the economy.
Well, major disappointment. The president's plans have all come to naught. Unemployment is at its highest, inequality is at its highest. People are living in dire conditions of poverty, and the situation is getting from bad to worse every day. There's a policy inconsistency insofar as government departments are concerned, and the culmination of that, of course, is things as we see them right now. So the president, I don't know where he's going to get the rabbit that he needs to pull out of the bag, but seemingly he and the ANC are out of ideas in terms of what needs to happen. And one of the reasons why that is happening is that the president is not bold in terms of decisive leadership and consequence management in his own executive to hold the ministers to account. It's one thing to expect Parliament to do it, but the one that appoints, who's the president, as far as we are concerned, particularly in the economic cluster, small business development is literally nowhere to be seen, yet it is the backbone of an economy such as ours. The programs, they're literally not coming to naught. Government entities are simply not responding to the economic demands. You're looking at the problems of ESCOM, of course, which all in themselves add on to an economic space nobody wants to invest in. The uncertainty that prevails is a problem. Water infrastructure in the country is collapsing, and you look at road infrastructure. So when the infrastructure fabric of the country is not functional and is not well maintained, people are bound not to want to invest. And so the president needs to go back to those basics. And chief amongst the basics is empowering local government to be able to manage and maintain infrastructure, because that's where the tire hits the tar. Allow for localization, allow for municipalities to get a bigger chunk of the national budget. As things stand now, less than 10% of the national budget goes to local government. Yes, there are problems in local government which needs to be fixed insofar as stability, good governance and so on is concerned, but those programs of reforms need to run parallel a renewal or a renewed budgetary regime in order for local government to meet the national needs which currently prevail. So insofar as the economy is concerned, the president has not done well at all. In fact, he's not covered himself in any glory.
Your expectations for tonight, which are the three areas that you believe the president has to address, and in some urgency?
Well, to preface it, the president must not make the mistake tonight of delivering a State of the ANC address ahead of the Congress in December. He needs to step to the plate and actually deal with the national issues. Chief amongst them, of course, is the jobs and the economy, particularly for young people. It is to ensure that there's leadership stability and leadership consequences which take place at the executive level. And in fact, the president will be well served in the next weeks to actually reconfigure the executive in order for it to respond to the needs of our times. And the third aspect is for the president to deal with the infrastructure agenda in a manner which is going to inspire confidence but also attract investment. So we are primarily concerned about jobs and the economy, because when you actually generating revenue, then you are able to deal with the other social responsibilities which confront the country. And of we still need clarity on the realities of COVID, which the president and his executive have been toing and froing from with uncertainty, and that on its own is a fundamental problem. So there has to be a focus about how we respond to the COVID dilemma that the country actually has.
Mr. Mkhule, thanks for your time. That's the IFP's Mkhule speaking to us there about their expectations for the State of the Nation address.